Hi there, my name's Dan Graham and I'm in a very cold studio in Liverpool in December 2017. This is a short video. I'll try and keep it short, which it's all about the vintage synth module of our DRONAR series. This has all been based around I think there's some kind of like reason why you're not allowed to say what it's sampled from, because that could imply some kind of endorsement or something. So let's just say it's sampled from a classic synthesizer from the 1980s, a classic analog synthesizer, expertly sampled by Alessandro Camnasio. Okay, so the plan of this video is to show you a little bit about the vintage synth module, but it's also, I'm going to quickly try and show you how you can create your own sounds using DRONAR. So first of all, you can see on the menu here a list of all the different instruments that are included with it. Now in the folder that says menus start here, that's got a whole set of presets, which each one contains 12 different drone sounds. So you can quickly choose between them by going up and down the key switches. The other instruments, the rest of them are inside the folders. They contain all the separate drones that make up the menu instruments. So the menus folder is really just like that could be the most useful one, to be honest, but that's the one where you get 12 at once, so it's great for fast auditioning of sounds. Okay, I'll load this one first, which is Complex Soulscapes, which was programmed by Alessandro Camnasio, who's also the same person who sampled this classic synthesizer in Milan a couple of months ago. And so he's programmed it, he sampled it, and then he's actually created quite a lot of the actual presets as well. So, you know, this is a real Alessandro moment. Okay, so this is the first page of DRONAR, which you might be familiar with. What you're hearing at any one time is a mixture of 8 different sounds. There's 2 sounds in each layer, so it's almost like a sequencer playing with bass instruments, mid-layer chords, high sounds, and effects sounds all playing at once. And with the front panel, you can do things like mix it so that, like, now you're only hearing the bass. You can't hear the high too much there because I'm guessing that the filter's a bit low. Yeah. Okay, so if you wanted to create your own sounds, let's say we'll just listen to the mid layer, which is, you see this button here, this dial, that's exactly the same as this dial here. So on this expert page, you're seeing the 4 layers laid out in front of you. You can do quick things like changing the tone, which is a combined hybrid dial which combines high gain, low gain, and some filtering. So it's like it's a way of simplifying things into one tone button. So when you turn it up, you're getting a high boost and a low cut. When you bring it down, you're getting a low boost and a high cut. The width control here, it gives you a stereo effect, but it's not really actually a stereo effect. What it's really doing is taking the 2 sounds. So if you look over to the left, where it says the thrill and muter saw over there, this is actually 2 separate sounds that you can fade between using this fader. And what the width button does, width dial, is it gives you, it pans them out. So it'll take the thrill and put it to the left, and it'll take muter saw and put it to the right, but you put it in the middle and it brings them both into the middle. So it can be very useful for width effects, but you might find that one's louder than the other, and then you've got to sort of tweak it using the XY fader. And what that's going to do is get a good balance. if you've got a high width. Okay, so here we've got modulation wheel to filter control. So if I turn that right up full, I've got the mod wheel. I'm just going to start moving the mod wheel. So you can hear the mod wheel now as is really controlling the filter. Q. Well, surely you know what Q means. I don't even know why people say Q. Why do they say Q? But it means resonance. But why would Q stand for resonance? Maybe somebody knows. Maybe Wikipedia knows. Maybe you can look it up and tell me. But so that's resonance, which is always useful for some things. So F is for filter. E to F is the envelope to filter. So if you turn that up, you're going to get the filter coming in. With the attack and fading out with the decay or release. Okay, so these two ramp little images here, that's release time. Need a bit of filter there. So second hand's off and you can hear it's still going on because it's a long filter time. And this is attack time. Now, I'm sure there'll be some very precise people wondering why there's no numbers on anything, and it's meant to encourage you to just see it as a thing that you tweak and you don't worry about the specific numbers, and instead you're just listening to the sound. So it's designed to encourage you to think about the sound instead of numbers, because there's so many different settings in here that interact with each other that, you know, a lot of these kind of dial settings don't really mean much, because like the F for filter, for example, you know, you can turn that up and down, but that same filter setting on the LFO page, you can have it so that the LFO is controlling the filter. On the ARP page, you can have the filter like this going through like a step sequencer, and it's the same filter every time. So there's so many interacting aspects of the DRONAR parameters that it's just best to judge it by ear. So anyway, so these are the basics. They're like basic synthesizer controls, but you know, you immediately get a lot of control. And then the other thing to do is to you could just choose the actual raw sounds. Liquid silk. Pre-CA. Fat saw. This thick button here, what that does is it creates a double octave. So when that's on, you get the sound gets spread across 2 octaves. Alright, so really what I'm showing you here is that the way DRONAR really works is that you're loading in 2 sounds into each one of the 4 slots. You can alter the tone, the volume, the filter, the envelope. You can have an XY controller. Using the thick button, you can spread it across 2 octaves. You've then got an LFO where you could, if you wanted to, you can have some interesting things going on. You can't really hear it because it's there's so many arpeggio things going on that it's overwhelming the LFO, so you can't really hear much. You can put it through all sorts of interesting arpeggiation as well as gating things on the arpeggiator page. Then on the master effects page, you can put things through reverb and delay, which also changes it again. So that's your whistle stop tour of getting into it, and this is only just on the mid layer. And the way DRONAR works is that it automatically adds a bass drone note for any chord that you play, as well as a high note, because of the quite interesting I'm getting very drawn into listening instead of talking here. So where were we? Yeah, right, you can hear like there's a lot of echo going on there. As you can see, delays turned up full there. Let's just see what's going on there. Right, in the high layer, it's got this string siren, which is actually some live strings. One other thing to add, I'm jumping from one thing to another here, but there you go. As with every DRONAR, you get all the new stuff, which is all these new samples that have been created especially for this particular module, and then you'll get these kind of DRONAR sounds, which is it's a bit of a compilation of some of the best and most useful sounds from the previous libraries. It's a couple of analog synth type stuff, and it's some strings things. In the mid layer, there's a couple of things like the mandolin trem. So there's that's from the guitars module. So it's a little bit of a slight best of, but it's just a little selection to just give you a bit of extra coloration. Anyway, so strings, we'll change that to magnetic strings. You can hear a lot of pulse in there. So if we go to the art page, go to the high layer, you can see in the intensity chart here, like over here, this is controlling the it's effectively controlling the volume of the sound. So it's like a gator, but it's not really the volume that it's controlling. It's controlling the it's controlling the velocity layering. So it's a bit like the way that when you put the mod wheel up and down, it's fading up between three velocity layers. So it's like a fortissimo, a loud sample that was created especially as a loud sample, and then a medium level sample, and then a quiet sample. So the mod wheel fades up between these three layers to give you these three separate intensities. And what this intensity chart does here, this graph, the gating thing, what that does is it's like a step sequencer that gives you different intensity levels. So it's like moving, it's as if it's like moving your mod wheel up and down quickly through the different layers, and that's like a much more organic sound than if that was just a volume control. The amount setting gives you a heavy effect, and if you've got no amount, then it's a less prominent effect. So you can hear nothing there, and now you can hear more. Now that's being constrained. I can't push that any further, and that's because the movement parameter on the front page, and as I said earlier, these things all interact with each other, and that's a design choice. It enables it makes it slightly chaotic, and then it makes it interesting because there's always something going on that you can't quite predict then. But the movement controls quite a few things at once, and one of the things that it controls is the amount of arpeggiator and gate sequencing and filter sequencer. So if you turn this amount up, what we can see there is that that's pushed the LFO up really high. So let's take that down so that we can see what's going on. See, I can't get that any lower than that because the movement's so high. So what I'll do is I'll put the movement in the middle. This will all make sense if you just play with it. And, by putting the movement back to the middle, it then means that the LFO, you've got then full control over it. Hopefully that makes sense, because what happens is that some controls are effectively are effectively taking over other controls, so that if you have the movement dial at 0, it's going to constrain you. So you can only get certain things like the LFO filter level and also the intensity amount levels on the arpeggiators. You can only get them up a small amount because the movement is so low that it's preventing you doing much. If you got it in the middle, you've got full control. You can have a lot of everything or a small amount of everything that creates movement. If you turn movement up full, then again, it kind of constrains how much control you've got over some of the other settings, because it means that everything's kind of slammed up to the top. But in the middle, in a happy medium, you've got quite a bit of control. So what's happening now is the amount on the intensity is having quite a significant effect. So you can hear it more if I do stuff like this. And I'll create a little bit of a filter thing going on. Now, the amount is just... It's the amount of influence that effect has. So if I take that down to 0, it means that all these things that I'm doing here, all these lines that are being drawn on this step sequencer, they're not really doing much. They're just creating a very slight undulation. But if you turn it up full, it's really chopping into the sound, and it's as if your mod wheel's going right to the top and right to the bottom. The smooth effect, what that does is it takes the hard edges off those movements. So instead of it lurching to the top and to the bottom, it does the same thing but kind of in a soft way. So instead of like the mod wheel jerking up and down, it's kind of slowly going up and down. And if you have a slow rate, so this is all happening slowly, then you can use this to create very undulating layers by having a slow rate and a high smooth level. It means that whatever you draw here, even if it's quite jagged, it's going to give you smooth movements. So you've got all these 4 different layers going on: FX, high, mid, low. If they've all got a high smooth setting, but different shapes drawn, they're all going to be moving in and out gently against each other slowly. So you're going to get a lot of movement, especially if you've got different things panned in different places. Things will really move around. You take my word for it. And then it goes right up to very high rates, and if you turn the smooth down, you can get very sharp little pippy pips. That's the amount of the pitch arpeggio on the mid layer. Everything's going super fast because it's all at a 64 rate. So you can see how I started off with a very interesting, good sound, but you can very quickly, just by ignoring the actual preset that you began with, you can just see it not as a selection of presets, but try to see it as this fantastic resource of programming options, where you can audition and choose all these fantastic sounding raw sounds. Each on their own sound just nice, and they're all taken from this classic vintage synth, this mystery vintage Oberheim synth, which is a Matrix 1000. Okay, so thank you. I think I've gone on long enough. That's 20 minutes of me just telling you how to program this thing. I've just been telling you the settings. Now, obviously, it depends what you're looking for, doesn't it? See, I was just about to go then, and then I suddenly realised there was more life in me. So let's listen to what's going on in the noise layer at the top there, the FX layer. Some nice noise there. Noise is always great, of course, for filtered. It's nice to listen to, obviously, when you want to do your own BBC radiophonic noise over the Pennines. There's the it's country file. We need more wind coming over the Pennines. BBC radiophonic workshop. Could you please add some more? Could you please create some? We need some wind for the Pennines, for country file, for the sheepdog trials. Could you add some more wind, please? We can do that for you, sir. Perfect. That sounds exactly like wind. That's how it used to be back in the days. And now you've got your own BBC radiophonic workshop. Right here, under the umbrella, within the engine, inside the machinery of DRONAR Vintage Synth module. Buy it. Okay, that's it. I'm going now. I'm just going to listen to this.